Buenas noches, good evening. Thank you to, of course, the board member and staff of NAHJ, as well as all of our guests that are joining us for this, the last board meeting of this current board, and teeing up for the next board to take over the reins, pick up the torch. I wanted to say a couple of words and reminders before beginning the meeting formally. The first thing is that, as Geraldine has been reminding us all week, we are in the middle of an election. And not only are we choosing new board members, but we're also making decisions about amendments to our bylaws. So specifically with the bylaws, it is required a certain number of members vote in order for the amendment to pass or not pass. So please take the time to vote. There's still time to do so. Don't delay. These are important decisions that we need to make as members of NAHJ. Robert, as well as other members of the board and members of NAHJ, has spent considerable time going through our bylaws, making recommendations for those amendments, all of which were approved by this board. So please take the time to vote for the new board and vote for the amendments. The last thing I wanted to say is really more of a housekeeping. The president, and certainly myself in this position from time to time, have asked members of the board to represent me in the duties of being president. And I've called upon Yvette most recently earlier this week to lead the board meeting, and I've certainly called on Geraldine and Nick and others to represent me in my absence. Tonight, I have asked Nancy, a member of our executive board, to do that. She will be leading this board meeting, my last board meeting as president, and I do it not only, and I do it symbolically in that clearly I am here and could certainly lead the board, but I wanted to recognize Nancy for her work as a member of this board and to express my gratitude and admiration for the work that she has done collaboratively with this board in unprecedented times. Her voice has been an important one in this last year. Her insights have been key in the decisions that we've made collaboratively. And she's certainly been a resource for me as she also sits on the executive board. And lastly, she has my vote. She has my vote for president of NAHJ. And so I want to recognize her and her work by asking her, and she has accepted, to please lead our board meeting, my last board meeting as president. So without further ado, Nancy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Hugo. I really appreciate it. This is a real honor. So thank you so much for those kind words. And thank you to my fellow board members as well. It's been a great experience to work alongside you. And Monica, congratulations on your new gig. That's wonderful news. So let's get rolling, because I know everyone's super busy, and I think we'll start then with the roll call. If our secretary could kick that off, please.
Sure, I will kick it off. Stand by. Here's the roll call to start the meeting. Hugo Balta. Hugo?
You're on mute.
Okay.
Presente.
Nick Valencia. Present. Yvette?
Here.
Nancy?
Here.
Geraldine?
Present.
I am present. Gómez? Rafael?
Presente.
Presente. Professor Robert?
Present.
Steve Solis. Steve is not here. He's in the middle of his show. Not present. Monica.
Present.
Melissa.
Present.
Elwin. Not present. Nanette. Not present. Blanca.
Present.
Johnny.
Presente.
Cristy. Cristy.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm here.
Oh, sorry. Angelica.
Presente.
Well, that's it for the board. Is Alberto also present?
No, Alberto is not present.
All right. We have a quorum.
Okay, great. Do I hear a motion to begin the meeting?
Yes, but
Meeting.
yes, but
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry to interrupt. And Nancy, you know I'm a big fan of you, but I would like to echo the concerns that were put in the comments about using this moment to endorse you in expressing your vote in official board meetings. I do think that's inappropriate. I want to say that. But of course, Nancy, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of all our candidates, but I think it's an appropriate concern being expressed in the comments. So wanted to get that as soon as possible.
And I recognize that, Robert. Thank you very much. It's noted.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that as well. Did I hear a motion to begin the meeting?
Geraldine motions to begin the meeting.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Rafael seconds.
Okay. So I believe that the first item on the agenda was the approval of the minutes from the emergency meeting we had on Saturday. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
A motion to approve the minutes.
Is that Johnny?
Yes, this is Johnny Hyphen.
Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Yvette.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, and at this point, do we need to have any discussion, or can we move on to the second agenda item?
You have to vote.
Oh, correct, thank you. So,
All right. Here we go. Hugo.
Yay.
Yay. Nick Valencia. Not present. Yvette.
Yes.
Yes. Nancy.
yes,
Geraldine.
Aye.
I am I. Rafael.
Yes.
Robert.
Yes.
Steve. Not present. Monica.
Yes.
Melissa.
Yes.
Elwin. Not present. Nanette. Not present. Blanca.
Yes.
Johnny.
Aye.
Cristy.
What are we voting on? I apologize. I had internet connection went out briefly. Is this just to start the meeting?
Approval of the minutes. Sorry, Nancy.
Approval of the minutes.
from the
Aye.
emergency meeting.
Aye.
Angelica.
Yes.
Ayes have it.
Okay, great, unanimously approved. So we'll move on then to the second item on the agenda, which is the audit. Do I hear a motion to get that item going in today's meeting? We need a motion to have the discussion, correct? Do I hear a motion for the going over the audit?
Yeah, well, I can give the report first and
Yeah,
then we
you give
can
the
vote
report.
to approve it or not.
Go ahead, Geraldine, then.
So, yeah, give me 2 seconds. So does everybody, I don't know if the staff can share the documents so the members who are in attendance can see them. I mean, I'm assuming the board has the documents up. So the first item, I apologize, I'm trying to pull them up. Okay, so the first item is the one that says 2019 SSA 115, Letter National Association of Hispanic Journalists. So hold on, I have an escaping baby. Andy, can you hold him? I have to give my Okay, my apologies for that interruption. Anyways, so this is a letter basically that says, no, I apologize, that's not the first letter we should be looking at. So the first letter that we should be looking at is the one that's titled 1114, SSA 1114. So I hope you can all see that in your computers. But basically it says two things. There was a correction made in our report due to, so we got last year in 2019 a scholarship for Ana Real, or in name of Ana Real, from CBS News. And so whenever we put something into the financials, the way that it was put by our by Sarah, who keeps our bookkeeper, she'd only put the money that was going to be giving out and that we received on 2019, even though the commitment for Anna's scholarship is for 4 years. So in standard practice for nonprofit organizations, that actually needs to be recorded all at once. So instead of recording portion of the grant that we got to give out the scholarship in name of Ana Real, we have to record the full amount, even though it would be giving out in X number of years. So that was a correction that was done to our financials, and there was an uncorrected misstatement that is also related to that as well. I've been told that I can share my screen. Thank you for that. So we should all be looking at this one letter here. So that's a big important here in this one letter. Okay, so moving on to the second letter, which is the SS 115. Basically, it states that, you know, we've done the bookkeeping appropriately for the most part, except those two corrections, that we are in a great financial standing, and that we also adopted last year, as you guys can remember, policies that the auditors had been suggesting that we needed to update because they were missing. So this is all sort of in compliance with some of that. And the last document, which is the longer document that you guys will have, which is this one with the sort of the full report, their opinion is that we're in grade. So here you can see some of the financials broken down. If we compare 2018 with 2019, all of the numbers are up, which means that we're doing great. We also had different amounts of net assets due to the differences in the conferences those years, which you can see here. So in 2018, we had net assets of unassigned, which was $204,000. In 2019, we had $237,000. But again, if you compare our numbers year to year, they are better than the year before. And the last thing is, right now, Our financials are very steady. And so the conclusion of the auditors were that if for whatever reason we were to stop bringing any new investments today, we could probably function for about 4.4 months with the amount of money that we have in reserve and with the amount of money that we have currently in grants and all sponsors. In 2018, it was about 3.1 months. Obviously, the goal here would be for the association eventually to have enough reserves so that we could have about 6 months of operations if no money were to come in. But anyways, like we see in comparison with 2018 to 2019, we've increased that month sort of reserves that we can operate with. I don't know if there are any questions from the board.
Are there any questions from the board?
Geraldine,
Geraldine, this is Blanca. I don't have. I just wanted to address again the chat, and we just want to make sure that we are seeing the concerns about Nancy leading the meeting. And again, we are obviously I'm a fan of Nancy as well, but I just want to make sure that they get an explanation as to why is regarding the fact that Hugo is present and there's nothing. There's nothing wrong
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm monitoring the chat. And again, their points are noted, but there's nothing that prevents me from asking a board member to lead the meeting. And so their disagreement is noted. Robert has voiced it. Let's move on.
well,
Do other board members agree?
Well, I want to say too that just being on the elections committee, and we say that people can't campaign. I'm also a fan of Nancy. I have utmost respect for her, but I do think that this could come across as campaigning.
I agree with that as well. I agree with what Robert said and what Cristy just said and I just don't think that we should be campaigning in this sort of format. And I know the intention was well made and noted. I don't think that was an appropriate action to do, in my opinion.
Well, Yvette led the meeting last week and I came in late.
No, just the endorsement. That's the only thing. That's what I'm emphasizing.
Okay.
But I do.
And that's been noted, but
Yeah.
I think that's it's two things. So it's been noted in regards to, as to my endorsement, but again, we were in the same situation a couple of days ago, and Yvette led the meeting despite the fact that I was a couple of minutes late.
But she's running unopposed.
It's also the week of election.
Yeah, I would like to motion that this changes. I feel like I'm being used and the board is being used. Other than Nancy, I love you. This is great, but I do think it's inappropriate. And if the majority of the board feels that it's inappropriate, I think it's the responsibility and the duty of the president to listen to the people around him.
Okay, I don't disagree.
Even though your intent was great. I know your heart's in the right place.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Robert.
I would like to just say one thing, and I'm happy to turn it over. Absolutely, as I've always said before, and I'll say it again, my priority has been, is, and will always be what is best for this organization. So if the sentiment is that my leading a meeting, which I have done in the past, is inappropriate, I totally respect that, and I would happily hand it over to Hugo again if he wishes to take the reign. I have no problem with that, Hugo. I do appreciate your kind words. I duly noted the concerns, and most importantly, I appreciate the input from my fellow board members. So I am happy to step aside, no problem at all.
Thank you, Nancy. I think that we can have a vote, but I think that Nancy relinquishing her duties basically puts it back on my lap. So unless, Robert, you want to have a vote, I don't think we need one. I'm happy to continue the meeting.
I don't know if we want to get it on the record of those who feel one way or another, but I think we can just continue the meeting.
Does anybody want to go on the record, or shall we continue? I will take it that we will continue. Geraldine, please. Where did we leave?
So are
You
there
had
any
to, You asked a question about, is there any board member that has any questions for Geraldine?
I have a question. I just had a question, Geraldine. Is there any penalty for that misclassification?
No, there's not. Give me 1 second. I actually have a work phone call, and I'm sorry. I apologize. We have an important stream tonight. Give me one-
Are there other items we should go to as she's dealing with work stuff?
The next thing is, well, we have to take a vote.
Yeah, of course.
We can wait. The next thing on the item is the executive director update, which includes a joint convention, year-to-date financials and update. And that's something that obviously Alberto's not with us, but he did send information. Did everybody get that?
In the email sent prior, right? Yeah.
Right. He had an emergency and this morning communicated he couldn't be present.
My apologies, guys.
That's okay.
It's one of those days. Anyways, Yvette, to your question, there are no penalties for the correction that was done.
And Yvette, I did have a quick question. You mentioned that we would be available to function for 4 months. That's how much is in reserves. That would be fully functioned with staff and everything, correct?
Correct. 4.4.
Okay.
I mean, that all they usually take into account like what are sort of our current expenses on our payroll and all of that stuff when they make that calculation. So just to say it on the record again, we would go from 3.1 months to 4.4.
I see.
So 2018, 3.1, 2019, 4.4.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we can now vote.
Unless there's any or other questions about the audit.
Anyone else? I don't think so.
The roll call then?
Yes, but we need to make a motion.
Motion.
So I
Geraldine,
motion to approve, yeah, I was headed that way. I motion to approve the 2019 audit.
I second.
And motions. Was that Robert who seconded?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's see the roll call. Hugo,
yes.
Nick, Yvette,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Geraldine.
Yeah, aye.
I am I as well. Rafa,
Yes.
aye. Robert,
Yes.
Steve is not present. Monica,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Elwin, not present. Elwin. Nanette, not present. Nanette. No. Blanca,
Yes.
Johnny,
Aye.
Cristy,
Yes.
Angelica.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Unanimous.
Great. The next item, as I was mentioning before, was for Alberto to lead us in a discussion about the joint convention, year-to-date financials, and an year-to-date financials updates and 2021. I don't know if maybe Robert, or if there's some thoughts that you had on the joint convention. I was going to ask Geraldine if there was any other information she wanted to share as financial officer in regards to the year-to-date financials before I would start leading a conversation about 2021. So starting with you, Robert, anything, you and Blanca, anything that you'd like to share that hasn't been shared previously?
I'm sorry. joint conference with who for 2021?
No. This is about this year's conference.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there are pluses and minuses to joint conferences, right? Alberto can talk about the room and board, the F&B. So there are some definitely benefits to expenses and such being shared. We also, depending on the organization, could also generate more revenue. Again, Alberto's more qualified and informed to speak on that part. In terms of programming, what has worked really is when we, NAHJ, have more control on our programming infrastructure. That was, there was a lot of factors in this last conference where we had to kind of roll with it as the bigger organization made a lot of the decisions, NAHJ. So there was some compromising there. I think if we can, again, it depends on who our partner is on those things, but we managed to find a way to still own our programming and still deliver some quality workshops. Blanca, I don't know if you want to chime in about the challenges and benefits of a joint conference.
Yeah, I would agree. I really can't speak so much to the financials because obviously that's Alberto's area, but it is a challenge when you are dealing with another organization to plan and kind of make it your own. But as far as I'm concerned, I think it went well. We did have our own programming and we were able to manage that with obviously your guidance. So I think it's good.
So a lot of plus and minuses for sure. And I think one of the things that's a big driver for joint conferences is the economics, both from an expense perspective and also a revenue perspective. And I believe that the next joint convention that we have that has been approved, or at least is in 2022 in Las Vegas, again with NAHJ. So I think the next, a future board would discuss another joint conference, which would then take us to 2024 if my math is correct. Geraldine, anything that you want to share in regards to finances other than what you shared already with the audit?
I mean, we've already gone in previous meetings through the financials. I am happy to go through, I can share quickly. Let me get, where is it? Here. I can go through our current financials for like third quarter, so that's on the record. Let me share one more time. Okay, so this is our budget versus actuals, which basically tells us where we are over the year. We've already started seeing a lot of the convention stuff hitting. I mean, some of it we're gonna see obviously in the fourth quarter, but we are sort of where we wanna be in terms of like, hitting those marks. For example, when we see our investment, we're already at 80%, about the end of the third quarter, you wanna be at 75%. So we're okay there, which means we're a little bit ahead of the mark there. We're way ahead of membership dues, or that's due to the fact that we now have a lot more members than we had last year. We finally hit that 3,000 mark, and we're about. Did we hit the 3,000 mark? We did, right?
Yeah, more.
Yeah, I think we're at 3,100.
Yeah.
Oh, we are? Oh, great.
So
that we've seen that increase because we now are at 3,100 members. And I think last year the maximum that we had was maybe at any point of the year was about 2,500. So that's obviously a 600 people difference, which, makes up that percentage there. The registration income, even with the adjustment that we made to the budget due to COVID-19, we actually exceeded the registration of the virtual conference by about 24%. And Alberto's not here because he's the one who knows if everything has already hit our account. But my feeling is that this number is not going to change much at this point. So in total income, we've already, in theory, have already hit 100%. But we will see if that's the same case on the expenses. So basically what this tells me is that, some of these expenses haven't hit yet. Some of them are going to be very low due to the fact that we moved into a virtual conference And even though we adjusted some lines like AV, for example, and food and beverage and travel for our staff, because that was significantly reduced by the fact that nobody was traveling and all that stuff, there might be some things that haven't sort of hit some of those numbers yet. But in terms of expenses, we are about 42%. We're going to see that number change in the fourth quarter when we pay out all the things that we have to pay out from the conference. And that's it.
Thank you, Geraldine. Any questions for Geraldine? Okay, I'm going to move on to the last section of this section of the conversation, and it's something that we've already started to talk about. I remember Alberto mentioned this in our previous board meeting, and I think we even, again, briefly discussed it, mentioned it in the membership meeting, and that's the 2021 National Conference that's scheduled to be in person in Miami in July. Where we are is very much where we were at the beginning of the pandemic, and that is having to make a decision with as much time as possible about it being virtual or being in person. Now, in speaking and hearing from Alberto, his recommendation is for this board to vote and approve that we do a virtual conference, given just the situation with the pandemic, and even specifically to the state of Florida. We're about to enter the fall and winter months where scientists are predicting there's going to be a resurgence of COVID-19 cases. And again, it's about time. In order for our organization to make decisions from beginning with a financial, first and foremost, the safety and the health of our members, followed by the finances. We need time to make those decisions. We need time to negotiate with the hotel, with our partners, in order to minimize the financial harm, or be in a position where, like this year, we are on solid footing financially. So I want to open it up to the board to have a discussion. I'm in favor of our executive director's recommendation. I really think, based on the success that we had with the virtual conference, all due to our leaders, many of them on the board, and the response and the feedback of the members and attendees. And that was with a very limited time. So imagine what we can do with time come for the next conference. I'm in favor of when the time comes, of voting to go virtual in 2021 for the reasons that I've outlined. And again, I'm paraphrasing the words of our executive director. So I open it up to the board for discussion.
This is Blanca. I would say I agree. I mean, it's an unfortunate agreement because obviously we want to be together again in person, but with the unknowns of what's to come, and having helped out with the virtual conference, and yes, like you said, there was less time. I think we can build on that and make it better. And again, it's unfortunate. I would like to say no, but I think this is the best choice.
I'm sorry, was it you, Robert?
Yeah.
Finn, go ahead, Finn.
I'm so sorry. I completely understand where Alberto's coming from, and I want to commend again what this organization did with the virtual conference. I think it was an incredible virtual conference, one of the best virtual conferences ever in the history of virtual conferences, and it's amazing what occurred. I think this decision needs to be made by the next board. I think this is something that is significant enough, and we have a new board coming up. Regardless of how it shakes out, this should be a decision left for the next board, which is coming, in a matter of days, frankly. I also think that, we cannot predict at this point, man. I'm covering this on a daily basis. We do not know in a week. There are different, Moderna just came out and said like there might be a vaccine in early 2021. I know there's a lot of fluidity. I know that it takes a lot of time to plan this, but as of right now, with this decision, I don't think this decision should be made for this board, but it should be kept for the next one. That's my position. So if I were to vote today, I would vote no. I would not vote to make this a virtual conference.
Thank you, Finn.
I echo.
That's what,
I'm sorry. Cristy and then Robert. Go ahead, Cristy.
I echo what Finn is saying. I think too that since we're in the middle of election and also the new board is going to be, involved in the planning of the next convention, they should have a say in whether we do it virtually or not. So I'm with Finn, and I would also vote no at this point.
Robert.
That's actually what I was going to say too. Thank you to my colleagues for bringing that up. I'm exiting the board. This is my last board meeting, and so I think it shouldn't be my call. I do think reluctantly that is where we're headed. And I do think the new board needs to take that up immediately and probably vote on, I can't stress enough, it is sad and unfortunate, and I'm dying to see you all out of all places, Miami. I do think a virtual conference is likely, and perhaps a hybrid, but the cost may not sustain that. But I do think that the new board should do that. Perhaps we recommend to the incoming board what we feel, but really I think we're in the middle of an election, 48 hours away from a new board. So
I mean, financially speaking, the deal with trying to, like, let's say, even if the next board comes in, which they will, obviously, we're in the middle of an election, in 2 days, even if the next board decides that we're gonna hold it in person, I think the big thing that we gotta consider here is usually a lot of those deals come, attached with a lot of money that, NAHJ, even though we're in great financial standing, we have been in, we have amazing reserves that are allowing us to create more programs, et cetera. Our financial standing, it's not like we have, a multi-million-dollar company that could sort of take a hit of, like, dealing with one of those deals if they go south. So I think that's what we have to take into account. And that's part of what was at stake this year. That we had already negotiated the hotel. And so financially speaking, looking at the books or whatever, and if we ever want to hit that mark of having 6 months in reserve for the longevity of the association, my suggestion at this point would be to go virtual next year.
Wasn't there, Hugo, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that the last gathering, there is a date tied to the negotiations with the hotel, is there not, that we have to make a decision? I thought he said October in order to get out of that contract and not be penalized with, a lot of penalty fees. I would love to know when that date is, and if we do have a little bit more time, then maybe it is something that can be brought forth for discussion again with the new board. Do we know?
I do recall that it is October. I don't recall the exact date, and unfortunately, Alberto is not here. I do think to what Finn and Robert and Cristy said, look, we had an emergency meeting on Saturday, right? Literally communicated, 24 hours, 48 hours for Saturday's meeting, and convened. Yes, it was bumpy. Yes, it was criticized by members and for sure with some merit. So why say all this? Because while the date is October, the new board can convene in an emergency meeting and, again, not give it the time that is allowed or suggested to give notice to the members. So it can be done. It has been done. It can be done. I think there's still time. But again, I'm not going to go against the wishes of the board. If the majority of the board feel that this responsibility should fall on the new board, then I will be in favor of that as well. Despite my feeling, again, that I think the right decision is to go virtual. So I think, Nancy, yes, it is October. I think it's towards the end of October. I think the new board can have an emergency meeting for this subject with enough time, unless, somebody else feels differently. And I want to hear from other folks that haven't spoken up yet on
If
this.
that is the case, that would be my preference. If it's doable, then that makes sense to me. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay.
Hugo, this is Rafael. I want to talk about that too. I don't feel comfortable voting for this in our last meeting, because this will happen next year, and I think the new board should have a say in this, and that will happen. That could happen next week, okay? If they have the first board meeting, and they could have this as a priority when they actually talk in the board meeting. I think we should not vote so far, because we don't know exactly the date in October that we need to actually vote for this. So that's my saying.
Thank you, Rafa. Look, I think, and I don't want to, if anybody else wants to speak up, but I think the consensus is, and I don't think, Robert, we need to vote to make a recommendation. I think I get it, it's symbolic, but I think that there's enough board members of the existing board that will be working with the incoming board members, including myself as ex officio, that can provide in that meeting, along with our executive director, some insights in helping them make the decision. So unless anybody has any objections, I will go to the next line item on the agenda. Okay, so elections proposed guidelines. Geraldine, you're up again. You're very popular at this meeting. Geraldine.
I'm right here. I'm so
All
sorry.
right.
So I actually don't have them ready. So what we discussed as an election committee, and I think I had this conversation with Melissa. I haven't had it with Cristy yet, but we one thing that we noticed throughout this process of the election is that sort of every year there's a slightly different process. And I've had several conversations with Janet about this. And my idea was today that I would present basically, a set of guidelines that the board could approve that would sort of move with every board, and then sort of make it standard moving forward. Because there's been different rules about whether you can campaign, whether you cannot campaign. So it depends on who you ask. So there's things that haven't been sort of, even for us in this role, haven't been super mega clear. And so anyway, so our recommendation is later going to be, and Melissa or Cristy will bring it up to the next board, which will be a set of guidelines that basically we adopt, and that NAHJ would adopt, that they could be followed every year. And also some of the things that we've added, like something that people have really commented about, and they said that they wanted to see. Another one was the campaign forum, where we have every candidate sort of speak and say what they were saying and stuff. So that would be great to sort of have some standard for that. Also, there's no guidelines as to whether we can have a special election. And when we're speaking about bylaws, there was a question at one point whether we were going to make the deadline and have all the bylaws ready and approved by the board and all that stuff. So it's also not, it's in the bylaws, but there's no sort of guideline to what a special election would look like for anything like that. So like I said, I apologize. I've had a couple quite busy weeks at work and with the election. So I haven't had a chance to go through all of my notes and all of the comments. And another thing that we would probably propose is that every election committee has an advisory to the election committee, somebody who's outside, who hasn't been on the board, who can sort of chime in as a regular member and help out. And those members that stepped up after we postponed the election and, helped us to lead this effort, had great input and we were able to put what has been a very successful election contested with 20 candidates. So we hope that we can give you guys some guidelines so that I can move forward. But I don't have it ready, I apologize.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Can I add something too? This was something that the bylaws committee wanted to take up as well, but clearly it's not for the bylaws committee to determine that workflow, but there is inconsistency election to election. So that might be something that is under the recommendations of the election committee. You know, the board can say, let's put this into the bylaws, and then the bylaws committee can find some language for things that we feel are important enough to put in the bylaws, right? Bylaws are guidelines and rails to really help you to keep things beyond institutional knowledge, opposed to, you know, we're seeing that, right? There are laws and then there are norms, and, you know, things get forgotten. We had a year where we forgot that a student rep could vote on board matters. So we want to put those, we might want to put those in the bylaws once we've gone through that process, a recommendation is made, the board approves and so forth.
Great, thank you, Robert. Anyone else on this topic?
Geraldine, I had a question about the deadline to become a member in order to vote. Is that from, or what's the reasoning behind that? Is that a leftover from having the elections during our typical conference, like around August, or?
There is always a date of record. So every election, and I forget what the rule is right now, I would have to take a look at my notes. But every election, I think, and Cristy or Melissa, chime in if you remember, I think it's 45 days out of the election, there is a date of record, which means you have to be a current member or in good standing in order to be able to vote in the election that's going to happen in 45 days. So that's why the July 30th, and I mean, we can probably count the days. It's either 45 days or 30 days. I think it's 45 actually, because it was in July. Anyway, so there's the rule, and maybe Janet, who knows it way better than me, can chime in. She's on the call. So anyways, there's a date that we have to set as the date of record prior to the election. So if you are not a member in good standing by that date, you cannot vote on the election, unfortunately. But, you know, out of the 3,100 members that we have, there are about 2,600 eligible voters around there, approximately. And then 700 of those are students, and 1,600 and change are regular members, regular academic members.
Yeah, I wondered because I'd had some members express disappointment that they aren't able to vote because they didn't meet that deadline. And I just wondered if it was a bureaucratic reason, like you need 45 days to, you know, enroll everyone, and et cetera. And I didn't know. So I just wanted to share that because some members expressed that.
Very honest, it's something that we even discussed, you know, whether we could potentially change it. Maybe it requires an amendment to the bylaws as well. But just so you know, we did send out several notes about the date of record as this election committee. One was on the day of to people's emails, and it was tweeted out. So we tried as much as we can to notify members that this was happening, but you know, that was you know, difficult. So some people don't read the emails, don't pay attention to social media sometimes. So.
Hey, Geraldine, I'm reading a question from Veronica Villafañe, and I don't know if you have the answer to this. Can you please confirm the eligible voters number currently? Did you say 2,100 members can currently vote in these elections?
And actually, Janet would have to answer that question. I don't know the exact number. I don't have it here.
Yes, hi, this is Janet. We have right now 1,648 regular members. That includes academic and lifetime members. And we have a total of 724 student members, which gives us a total of 2,372 eligible voters. Now, you all know the students can only vote for students in this election.
Thank you,
Great.
Janet.
Thank you, Janet.
Janet, can you clarify the date of record, Yvette's question too?
Yes, the date of record, yes, it was July 30th.
Yeah, but why was it July 30th? Is it 45 days?
Oh, yes, it's basically, according to the elections guidelines and the bylaws, there is there is a suggested timeline that needs to be followed, and so that date needs to be 45 days before the conference. But this year, the election committee decided for that date, and that's something that obviously you guys decided, the election committee.
Anyways, but it was within that guidelines that were sent to us that had been done for forever and ever. But again, you know, the guidelines sort of change a little bit from year to year depending on what each elections committee decides to do. But the date of record is 45 days out of the election.
That is correct.
Okay. Anything else on this topic from anyone?
Hugo, talking about this topic, I just wanted to say that I've, in several years on the board, I've never seen that these two committees, for example, the bylaws committee and the elections committee, stepped ahead. So I need to congratulate those two teams because this year they actually did it amazingly. And I know this work is not done yet. We will actually continue doing more and more. But Robert and Geraldine, you both did great with your teams. So we need to congratulate you for that. I've seen that, you know, we stepped ahead in those two teams. So congratulations and thank you.
Yeah, I agree. You both did a wonderful job. And, you know, having worked with Geraldine on the elections committee, I saw how hard she worked and how time consuming it was for her. And so thank you, Geraldine. And also thank you, Robert. I know that you worked really hard as well.
Yes, thank you both.
No more thank you guys. You're gonna make me cry.
Thank you to our members for stepping up and really, you know, we were responding to their groundswell of support of these important aspects. So definitely thank you to our members.
And I also wanted to thank Dota and Robert, and something that the committee's been talking about on the election side of things is how can we make these changes, you know, foundational changes that we can continue to build upon. So the elections committee is going to aim to meet after the elections to see how we can put together a doc, a resource guide for the next elections committee. And we're definitely taking into account all the great feedback, the learning opportunities as well from this experience so that we can only get better.
Great. Anything more on this topic? We've just got 3 more. I'm going to leave the closing remarks for the end. What we have next is old business. So, which I think might be a little bit redundant, but is there any old business that the board would like to discuss, bring up? Any new business? Please.
I don't know if this is the place to do it, but to our attendees and to the board, please, please, please encourage voter turnout. For those who may not know, we need 1/3 of the membership to participate in the election in order to reach quorum. Quorum required to pass bylaw amendments. And of the votes cast when quorum is reached, 2/3 of the votes cast must be in favor for a proposed amendment to pass. We are, the last number I got, we are about 210 away from reaching quorum. Is that, I suck at math, but I think that's correct. 210 more votes needed to reach quorum. So please encourage folks, lifetime folks, your spouse. I had to remind my wife today in terms of like, hey, vote. So please get people to vote. And also afterwards, in that name of getting voter turnout, we're hosting a meetup through High Fidelity. I'll post that in the chat when we're done, and hopefully everyone can join us.
Thank you,
By
Robert.
the way, am I like the only person that doesn't know how that works? Because I joined.
A lot of people are new to it. Don't worry about it. Just show up. Click on the link and start talking.
What do I do now?
Geraldine, is any messaging going to go out between now and 8 o'clock tomorrow regarding the election? Any reminder to the members?
Yes, so the reminder really goes to the people who are eligible to vote who haven't voted yet. So every day we have been sending out a reminder. Like I think one of the candidates, I think it was Julio Cesar, who asked me, it's like, why haven't you guys sent a reminder? And I'm like, no, we have. It's just that it's going directly to those members who haven't voted quite yet.
I have a question from Veronica Villafaña again, directed to Robert. What is the purpose of the voting meetup? Isn't that campaigning?
I was just responding in chat, and I put this out when I did the tweet. There's no campaigning allowed, no campaigning allowed. Say the third time, no campaigning allowed. It is meant to remind people to vote. So it's for voter turnout. We've done these meetups before. We used to jokingly call them the COVID chapter. There are people who said that they're not near a chapter, even pre-COVID, and didn't have social moments. So we created this space to just hang out and get together. But full disclosure, it was to get people to vote, but no campaigning allowed. Everybody is welcome, no campaigning allowed.
I don't want to miss this question, and it's from Francis Frenchie to Geraldine, just for clarification. So I'm reading her question. Geraldine, maybe my math is off, but didn't the elections begin this week? So how's 45 days ago, July 30th?
I think Rafael Meja answered in the chat. So we have, I think, anywhere up to between 60 to 45 days.
Okay, I missed that. So Rafael answered. Okay, all right, great. Just as long as we clarify that.
And I forget all the rules, but like we also needed to give ample time to campaigning. And so because there was, I mean, multiple things at play, but because we knew the candidates weren't going to be at the conference like before, we wanted to give people the chance to have the candidate forum, have a longer period of campaigning that normally they would. And also this year, instead of making the election process be the actual election week, instead of being 2 weeks, we're only having 1 week because we gave the candidates 1 week to campaign.
Robert, how confident are you that we're going to meet quorum for those amendments?
This is the first time I am involved with bylaws, and we have less than 48 hours. So there's sweat on my little forehead. So that is why I wanted to have some sort of something to get people to do that. So I honestly don't know. It will be heartbreaking if we don't reach quorum. There's really nothing we can do, you know, nothing. If we had a special election, perhaps the election can go on until we reach quorum. I don't know if that's something to do, but I don't think that's appropriate to do now during a board election. But that's, yeah, look, I'm a little nervous. Not gonna lie.
It's a lot of hard work, a lot of great work, and I'd hate to see it, you know, not make it because we didn't make the quorum, which is to say, to what you're suggesting, and again, it falls on the next board. Hopefully there could be a special election. Hopefully it could be, I don't know, perhaps grandfathered. We've always had a challenge with meeting quorum. So it's not unique to this board. It's not going to be unique to the next board. There's got to be a better way, right? It's just so difficult. But okay, all right.
Yeah, definitely is something that the next board can take on and put on a special election. The bylaws committee is going to continue. So the hope is that there will be a flow of bylaw proposals. Just because we don't reach quorum does not mean it didn't pass. If we reached quorum and bylaw amendments didn't pass, then I don't think it's appropriate to put those exact bylaws back up for vote. But if we don't reach quorum, I think the right thing to do is to put it back up to members and perhaps have it till we reach quorum. I don't believe there's anything against that in the bylaws, but yeah, bylaws should not be easily changed for sure. I actually had been on a national board where the bylaws were easily changed, and that made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, and I want to read Aurelius's message here. She said, what did she say? She said, we could use everybody's help on the board and encourage others to vote. Please tweet, Facebook. you know, telepathy, smoke signals, anything is a go, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're all hands on deck on that, including everybody
Please.
who's on this in this meeting.
I wanted to say something really quick to Robert. Thank you for doing all of that work. I don't think you should be sweating. I think because of the 2020 that we've had, we've realized that the members are very engaged, very engaged. And we saw a big example after the election had to be postponed. So I think that a lot of people are actually engaged and they want change and they want to participate. And I encourage everybody, and I see it also on the chat, to use their social media channels to motivate others to vote. I think all of us, we probably have already voted by now, like I have. But I think that our membership is very engaged. So I think we're gonna see good results.
I see a question from Mikalo on the chat. Mikalo, they were put up to the members. We met quorum and they were passed in 2018. So,
Sorry, what was the question? I'm sorry, what was the question for the minutes?
yeah, I apologize. The question was, Mikalo, were these, or no, that was Robert responding to Mikalo. I lost it. I saw it, but then I lost it.
Oh, in terms of, so he asked in terms of, are these the first changes since 2018? I said yes. He had a follow-up question in terms of, did the 2018 changes happen the same way? If I remember, one of the changes in the bylaws was, if I remember correctly, it used to be bylaw amendments required 2/3 of all members, of eligible voters. We changed the bylaws to be 2/3 of votes cast as long as a quorum is reached. And I do remember a huge campaign of people like at the conference being cornered and saying vote because a lot of things were threatened by that, if I recall correctly. But that was a couple years ago.
But as we can tell, it's still not easy. I mean, if we don't get another 200 and, what was the number, 210?
210, I think. Yeah, it's the last, if you go to the current bylaws, it's the last amendment at the bottom of the bylaws. It spells everything out in terms of how to amend the bylaws. So yeah, tell your friends, post on social, post it today, post it tomorrow afternoon. Polls close at, is it 8 p.m. Eastern? So we can do it. We had 200 something votes on day one. So that was really fantastic. Let's close it off with a bunch of votes.
Yeah, and it's not about telling them to vote one way or the other. It's just telling them to vote, period. And just to reiterate what Arelis is sharing on the chat, we just want to make quorum, really. The decision is a decision, but making quorum is what's key. Okay, anything else? Old or new?
I just want to thank you guys so much for everything that we've been able to do together. Thank you so much. Do you want to say thank you too?
No.
Okay. You know, it's been a pleasure this last 5 years on the board. I will miss you all very dearly. And don't forget, tomorrow at 9 p.m. there will be a live announcement of the winners and whether or not the bylaws amendment passed.
Great. Robert, you are also leaving the board. Please, any parting words?
It was a pleasure to serve with all of you. I got to see front row seats of how amazing you all are and how much you care about this organization and the integrity you carry with every decision. Even there were the tough decisions. I do applaud each and every one of you for your work and for your commitment to the organization. I know that with this board and the transition to the next board, NHJ is really in good hands, and often, you know, to be blunt as well, not be blunt, that sounded weird, but the staff is quite amazing. We are incredibly fortunate to have such a wonderful executive director and team, BA, Leslie Ann, Janet, Juan, everyone is just a phenomenal, over the top, underpaid, overworked, but truly passionate about this organization. So to be a part of it, it is an honor, and I know what's up. NHJ always has my number. So I know there's nowhere I'm going. I won't be on the board, but I'll be involved in so many other ways.
Thank you, Robert. Who else is leaving the board? Johnny, you're leaving. Are you staying, leaving? Oh,
No,
you're
you
on
said
mute.
Sorry, I have one more year.
One more year. Okay, great. Angelica, you're leaving the board, of course. You're our
Yes.
student rep.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I want to thank Leslie Ann so much for all her help. Hugo, Robert, you're truly amazing. I admire you, like Robert for president. Thank you so much, Nancy, like everyone. Rafael was the one who drove me to NAHJ, so thank you so much. It has been a pleasure for me, and like as a Puerto Rican, I have to thank you for all the scholarships, the help, the initiatives you have made to Puerto Rico. I'm truly happy for that. And yeah, like I'm sad, but it's part of the process. I hope to, I don't know, maybe NAHJ in New York. So thank you so much.
Well, apparently they need people to run for the board. So
I'm a student member. I have to graduate.
Geraldine, I tried.
Geraldine's on the line.
I'm also stepping down, unfortunately, because of this new job. I will no longer be in Region 2 and therefore can no longer represent the area. So I just want to thank everyone on the board. This isn't it for me at NAHJ. I look forward to helping out in other ways. I look forward to still being involved with the conference and the planning, and any other way that I can help out. And maybe down the line, maybe I can rejoin the board at some other juncture.
Thank you very much, Monica, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't know what else to say that hasn't been said, right? I think what a wonderful group of people. So blessed to have had the opportunity to work with you, to be led by you. I think the work of the last couple of weeks, as has been said over and over again, with the committee to look at our bylaws, to the election committee, to the committee and the group with the virtual conference. The work speaks for itself, and is appreciated not only by myself, of course, not only by the board, but the members and the staff. As Robert said, like these are our unsung heroes that really are the heart of our organization. So my thanks, my endless thanks to them. And I also want to echo what Robert and I think Johnny said also, and what often sometimes is underscored, right? We're not Republicans, we're not Democrats, we're the members of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, and we're passionate people because we care. Everybody who's here, including the participants, we might not agree on how to get there, but we do agree that we do need to get there. And this time around, the last time around, I've always embraced differences of opinion, discussion, and debate. And I believe that from debate, new ideas are born. And I think the fact this election is testament to that, right? How we got here, absolutely bumpy road, full of potholes, but we got here, and the fact that we have so many contested races, so much participation in the voting is testament to that. So I leave with just, let's never lose sight of that. There's gonna be times, there's been in the past, and there's in the present, and there'll be in the future, where we are going to disagree. But let's not lose sight that we're all part of the same organization. Those debates that we have, they'll go away, and we remain. So be competitive, be passionate, speak your mind, push your point forward, but please also do it in a way that's respectful, and that later on, like I've done so many times, both this time and my last time around, go, I wish I would have done that a little bit differently. But again, I love NAHJ. Coming back was a no-brainer for me. I've said it before. I've gotten so much from this organization, but I'm working really hard to repay it. Anything, like Robert said, I could do for this board, the next board, members, staff, I'm easy to find. Thank you so much for your hard work. I'm so proud of the work that we've done. I'm so proud of the advocacy that we've done for journalism and for Latino journalists. And for that, I really applaud all of you. We don't, both this board and the candidates for the future board and those that came before us, nobody throws their hat in the ring to serve on the board because they want to be popular. And we're not elected to be popular. We're elected and entrusted to make the best decisions that we can make with what's in front of us. And I will take the Pepsi challenge on that anytime. For only the old people understand Pepsi challenge. So for your younger people, I trust who I work with. Anyway, with that said, muchísimas gracias. And do I hear a motion to end the board meeting?
I motion to end the board meeting.
I second.
The board meeting has ended.
Monica and I second it, the three of us. And
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, everybody on the board, everybody who joined us. And please, 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 starting right now, start pushing for people to vote.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you very
gracias.
much.
Buenas
Gracias.
noches.